Okay, so Plex Limited is a successful sports equipment retailer. Plex is in the process of engaging 3 IT consultants in order to set up the company's online retail presence. The consultants are all UK resident and currently operate as self-employed individuals. The project is likely to take between 9 and 12 months, and both Plex Limited and the consultants would prefer the engagement to be one of self-employment. The negotiations are at an early stage, and Plex would like to know how the engagement can be structured in a manner that will support self-employed status. The Human Resources Director of Plex Limited has asked you to advise him.
Explain the tax issues relating to the status of the IT consultants.
Yeah.
So what points can you take to begin with in terms of the situation?
Oh. So what do they want to do? They want to stay as self-employed rather than employed by Plex.
Exactly. So generally speaking, an individual, sorry for the kettle.
It's all right.
Yep. An individual would prefer to be a contractor rather than an employee, right? Why?
Okay.
For many reasons. One being that as an employee, you are taxed under PAYE, which means you are taxed at source. So as I always say, when you get your pay slip, you don't get the gross amount. You have tax and NIC deducted, and then you receive your net amount. So your tax is taxed at source. If you are a contractor, you'll be taxed as self-employed.
Yeah.
Therefore, you will pay tax on 31st Jan following the end of the tax year. So you receive the full gross amount, and then you sort out your own taxes. So you have a cash flow benefit or advantage.
Okay.
So individuals would prefer to be treated as self-employed rather than an employee.
Okay.
So here we are looking at, so the consultants are all UK resident and currently operate as self-employed.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of the information, what do we need to consider for IR35 purposes?
What is IR35?
IR35 is the intermediaries regulation, whereby if you fall within IR35, then you will, then whether you class yourself as self-employed or not, the legislation says that you will be taxed as an employee. Okay. So basically, as a bit of background, what used to happen up until April 6th this year is that in the example of IT consultants, you'd have Plex Limited, for example. And within Plex Limited, there'll be an IT consultant who will be an employee. Okay? And then you'll have someone else that comes that's doing the same work as that employed IT consultant, but just because he has structured himself via a limited company or self-employed, the two will be getting taxed differently.
Yes.
As I say, one will be taxed at source under PAYE, the other will be taxed under self-assessment.
Yeah.
Therefore, this disconnect showed it as unfair. And obviously for the taxman, HMRC, they won't be too happy with this. Why? Because self-employed individuals pay class 2 and class 4, which are 2%, 9% and 2%. Employees pay 12% and 2%. So they're missing out on that 3%, right? Between 9% and 12%. Also, they are missing out on employers class 1 NIC, because as an employee, the employer has to pay class 1 NIC, right? So by this setup, having a contractor, the company would avoid class 1 secondary contributions, and the individual would avoid class 1 primary at 12 and 2%, and would pay 9 and 2%.
Right. Okay.
So that's the whole understanding behind IR35. So that's why contractors would prefer to be taxed as self-employed rather than an employee. Now, obviously, the disadvantage between for the self-employed individual is obviously the employee receives holiday pay, maternity allowance if it's relevant,
all the other benefits,
all the other benefits. But the two main things to consider is control and mutuality of obligation. Control means, are you told what to do, when to do it, how to do it? If so, then you should be treated as an employee.
Mm.
But if you are given a job and you are told, okay, do this job within 3 months is your deadline, and then you go away and do the job how you like, as in you allocate your time, your resources, however you like, then that would be self-employed. Mutuality of obligation is the second most important thing to look at, which is if you are told to do a job, you are told to sit at a desk, and you have to come in every day and you have to do work 9 to 5, then, and you have no choice, then it means that you are obliged to listen to the employer, which means you are employed. But on the other hand, is if you are offered a job and you have the choice to accept the contract or not, then that would be self-employed. And it works the other way around. The employer is obliged to give work to the employee.
Yes.
But they don't have to give work to the self-employed. They can give work when they have to, when they need to.
Okay, makes sense.